Hi, I'm Peas and welcome. Today is a first for the channel, my first proper zombie film on here. Now, I could have gone with any number of classics or modern favourites. Return of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Zombie Flesh Eaters, Reanimator, you know, the usual suspects. But I wanted to go with one that hit me right in the fear ballsack back in the day. So today, I'm talking about Return of the Living Dead Part 2. I first saw this in 1988 when it came out. I was 10 years old, thought I was tough, thought I was hard, and this film, despite being mostly played for laughs, still made me afraid of reanimated corpses. Little Peas was once again under the bed covers, sweating like a dolphin in a taxi, and eventually blacking out at some point in the night until it was time for breakfast. The images of the zombie bully boy chomping on his mum's cranium was playing on a loop in my head. Now you might be sitting there having watched a few of my other videos and you're thinking to yourself, Peas, you idiot, you talked about 28 years later a few months ago. That's a zombie film. And to you, I say, no, I don't consider it a zombie film. I'm not explaining myself either. And in case anyone's wondering why I'm starting with part 2, it's not because I think it's a stronger film. It's simply where I've chosen to begin, as I saw this film before I actually saw the original. So it's got itself a tender little spot in my heart. Uh-oh. Now, sit back, take your wig off, pour yourself a glass of house wine, or a craft beer if you're a hipster like me, and let me tell you what this film is all about.
A deadly experiment. A freak accident.
Return of the Living Dead 2 opens in a quiet suburban neighbourhood where a military truck accidentally loses one of its canisters, the same type that caused all the chaos in the first film of the series. Inside this canister is trioxin, gas, sealed up and forgotten until a group of kids find the canister while messing around near a storm drain. They poke at it, they hit it, they do exactly what 80s kids do, and of course, the canister leaks. The mist escapes the canister, creeps through the graveyard, a freak thunderstorm rolls in, day snaps to night, and off we go. Infected rain pours into the graves that appear to be about a foot deep, judging by how quickly everyone begins to climb out of them. As the dead rise, a rocking soundtrack kicks in, the kind that immediately makes you think of Michael Jackson's Thriller. The zombies cough, stretch, yawn, adjust their clothes. One even puts on a pair of glasses. The whole scene is genuinely laugh out loud funny. From that point on, it becomes a character-driven comedy fight for survival. We follow a small group of survivors that include the kid, who was amongst those that accidentally started it, and a handful of adults who are wildly unprepared. As the outbreak spreads, the group tries to escape the town, while the streets fill with fog, noise, and living corpses. It's a suburban outbreak story with a comedic shell and a genuinely eerie core. And unlike the darker, punk-infused first film, with its gratuitous nudity and full-on muff shots, or the more tragic body horror-driven Return of the Living Dead 3, this one sits in its own strange little pocket, silly on the surface, unsettling underneath. By the second half, the film leans completely into schlocky gore and outright cartoon violence, the kind that's too ridiculous to be disturbing, but far too graphic to pretend it's harmless. When all's said and done, it's a film that pretends to play nice while keeping a knife behind its back. The zombies in this film are brilliant. They're far more expressive than the first film, where the zombies feel more like full-on monsters than straightforward undead. We still get a few of those here, including the infamous Tar Man, But in this one, despite the rot and the flesh falling off, the zombies run, they're chatty, and they're weirdly intelligent. Far more so than the lumbering idiots in Romero's original trilogy, which is usually the benchmark for zombie behaviour. I think a lot of the fear for me watching this when I was young came from the fact that the film's main protagonist is a child. I could relate to that. I knew what it was like trying to keep a bully off my back while being a nerdy little geek kid, a trait that I've carried proudly into adulthood without changing a single pixel of it. I'm a nerd until I die. These days, it's much more acceptable to be different, to be odd, to be the weird kid. Back when I were a lad, things were different. They were less forgiving. Sure, there are still dickheads around today who make life difficult for the geeks, but now it's almost fashionable to be quirky, to the point where people are trying far too hard to be different. Ooh, look at me, I'm on YouTube, I wear a clown mask, aren't I the quirkiest? But seeing a child go through the events of this film was genuinely frightening. You weren't watching adults facing hordes of zombies and imagining what it would be like if you were a kid in that situation. The film just hands it to you directly. The bully bothered me even before he's a zombie, but when he does turn, that's what really scared me, because if he could turn as a child, then I could too. Children were not safe in this world. A bit like Evil Dead into Evil Dead 2, Return of the Living Dead Part 2 feels less like a straightforward sequel and more like a polished reimagining of the first film. I mean, we've got two actors returning, now with different names, but acting exactly as they did before, despite being very much dead. You could easily call this film a remix. Watching this again recently, I can see exactly why it scared me as a child. It has that young teen horror anthology energy in places. Not quite kids' TV, but close enough that a slightly older child could watch it without blinking. But even with all the camp silliness, there's still a hint of darkness under the surface. The fog, the empty streets, the strange lighting. It creates a tension the comedy can't quite smother. Even the plinky-plonky, over-cheerful music can't hide it. It's a film that keeps insisting it's harmless, whilst quietly proving that it really isn't. The gore is mostly played for laughs, but it still has moments that push beyond anything you comfortably show a child. There's a bit where a girl punches a zombie in the face and it sort of caves in, releasing a pile of thick yellow gunk. It's gross, it's silly, and it sits right on the edge of what the film tone can get away with. Some of the zombie head bites are surprisingly gory too, with less brains and something more similar to what looks like intestines being yanked out of the skull when the zombie pulls its head back. One zombie even gets blown in half. The legs wander around with a bit of spine sticking out, whilst the top half scuttles along on its hands, guts dangling, before it manages to strangle the lead boy. He then blasts its face off with steam from a pipe, leaving it screaming in pain. It's not quite as sharp as the first film, and it's nowhere near as intense or tragic as the third. But it has its own weird energy that I genuinely enjoy. The first film is still the king of the series. A perfect blend of punk energy, bleak humour, and that gloriously nihilistic, abrupt ending that basically shrugs and says, yeah, you're all fucked. It's chaotic, it's viciously funny, and it leaves you with a rare feeling of a horror comedy that actually commits to the horror. Part 2 doesn't have that edge, but it's not trying to. It leans into its silliness and its slapstick violence. I give Return of the Living Dead Part 2 a 7 out of 10. If you've seen it, let me know what you thought. And if you've got something spooky you want me to look at, drop it in the comments. That's me for now. I'll go make sure there's no stray canisters that have turned up in my garden. Stay gloriously geeky, you beautiful thing. Peace be with you. Always.